Hello and welcome to BIBA TV. We're here at the BIBA conference in Manchester in 2016 because in 3 months' time the Insurance Act comes into force. So we've put together a new guide with the help of insurance governance expert McTavish, who's going to tell us all about how to implement this new Act. Now I'm here with an expert panel who are going to tell us a little bit about what the Act means. So let's ask first of all David Herzl, the former Law Commissioner. David, you've created this. Why?
Well, two main reasons really, Graham. First is the original law was drafted at the end of the 19th century and we have moved on a little bit since then. And the second really is we wanted to produce a system in which the underwriter got the information it needed to price the risk correctly, apply the right terms to the risk, and the policyholder got a policy that responded whenever it had a problem and not a big area of dispute.
Now that all sounds very good in theory. Bruce, you've been out around the BIBA regions meeting hundreds and hundreds of BIBA brokers. What do you think this really means for them?
I think the important thing at the moment is to start getting into the nuances of the Act. The Act uses a lot of language which we might use in normal day-to-day circumstances, but you need to think about what it means exactly in this Act. So if you look at a phrase like senior management, you might have a view in a lay sense as to what that means, but it means actually something very specific here. And I think that it really is important to understand what the words mean as intended by the Act, get into the nuance, get into the detail and start to think about how you need to change the way you place business.
Okay, that's important, thank you. Now, Cathy, what do you think the interactions are going to be differently between insurers and brokers now?
Well, I'm hoping that after the Act has been enacted that we continue to support our BIBA members and all our brokers and help them to understand that where there's any ambiguity, help them with some clarity there and support them all the way through.
Now, Finlay, from an RSA perspective, what different information will you be providing to insurance brokers?
Well, Graham, we've got 3 strands to this. The first thing we did was start to update our policy wordings, get rid of the basis of contract clauses, make it fit for the Insurance Act. Second thing is we've changed our e-trading question sets to make that simple, move away from any ambiguity there. But first and foremost, we're spending a lot of time training and we're doing broker webinars. We've got 250 signed up so far, setting out what we believe the changes are, based on the same principles that BIBA are telling their members.
David, can you tell us 2 key adjustments to how policy terms will operate differently?
Well, I think the prime areas where that will change, first of all, basis of the contract clauses, as Finlay mentioned. Basis of the contract clauses are outlawed, they are ineffective, there's no point in including them in the policy. The second area is around warranties. Warranties can still be in a policy, but their effect is very different. They become suspensive conditions and they must be relevant to the kind of loss that occurred. Very unlike the current warranty that we see in policies.
You're absolutely right. Now let's go back to Bruce. Broker disclosures are changing. Can you tell us some differences in the disclosures that are having to be made?
Yeah, I think you come back to the 2 subjects that they define as information that you know and information that you ought to know. And that's essentially 2 buckets of information. And what you know has to be disclosed. And then the legislation defines what you know as pertaining to what senior management knows, the individuals that arrange the insurance and the individuals at the brokers that arrange the insurance. And that needs to be thought through very carefully. And I think brokers also need to protect their own position, because if a board of a company conceals something from their own department that buys the insurance and from their broker, the brokers need to make sure that they're not on the hook for that. So brokers need to think about their contracts with policyholders. The Act has a very clear view as to how responsibility should be spread, and you need contracts across the system to reflect that.
Yeah, okay. Now, Cathy, from Ageas' perspective, tell us the good news. What disclosures don't brokers need to make to you now?
Okay, so there's 3 main areas here. So the first area is information that the insurer or the underwriter already holds about the risk itself that's material or relevant to the risk. Then the second area is where the underwriter really ought to know something that's important, material and relevant to the risk. So that's the second. And then the third one is common knowledge. So those are the 3. And actually in the actual mini guide, you've got the information in here just for quick reference, which makes it really helpful. So
brilliant, thank you. So Finlay, what would you say is the knowledge that you already have?
I think the thing about our knowledge we already have, insurers have to be much better at managing the data that they control, whichever source it comes into. So for example, if information comes into the claims department, the underwriter can't pretend the company doesn't have that knowledge, or if they have multiple submissions from different brokers, actually that knowledge is within the organisation. They have to be better at managing that, they have to be better at sharing it within their organisation. That will remove a lot of the doubt and make this work.
Let's hope so. Thank you very much. So that was Finlay Smith from RSA, Cathy Taylor from Ageas, Bruce Hepburn from McTavish, and the former Law Commissioner himself, David Herzl. Now you can watch the full BIBA seminar session straight after this clip, and if you want a copy of the main guide sponsored by Ageas and RSA, or you want the customer-facing fact sheet, which would be really helpful when talking to your customers, or you just want to read the broker mini guide, they're all available from the BIBA website or the McTavish website. So that's www.biba.org.uk. Thanks for listening.